From Spam and fondue to the Cabbage Soup diet, people have been going bananas for tasty trends since the beginning of time. Today, we're covering the most popular food fads in the last 100 years. And we're going to talk more about human blood than you'd expect. While we're not nutritionists and can't endorse any of these food fads, one thing we can do is count them down by the decade. So strap on the feed bag, because it's time to get chomping. Believe it or not, there was a time when the general public had never heard the term calorie, a utopian era where food was thought of as nourishment. People lived in pure, naive bliss. Well, until the 1920s, when Lulu Hunt Peters came along and warped our perception of food and nutrition forever. Peters touted a diet technique that helped her lose 70 pounds, and she dubbed it calorie counting. She wrote Diet and Health with Key to the Calories to convince the masses to bring mathematics into their meals. And it quickly became America's first best-selling diet book, making her into a different kind of fat cat. Beggars couldn't be choosers when it came to food in the 1930s. For many, it was a time of take what you can get and make it into something that could stretch meals for a week. Enter the casserole. The sauces were creamy and thick, with 2 C's. The noodles were cheap, and the combo made for delicious and incredibly filling dinners that only required a small amount of expensive meat. Perhaps the most appealing part of the casserole is that you can throw literally any combo of ingredients in a dish, toss it in the oven, and call it a casserole. And yeah, we really mean anything. Green beans, cheese sauce, and egg noodles? That's a casserole. Tuna, broccoli, gravy, and rice? Casserole. Canned beef, gelatin, peas, and vinegar? Somehow, despite the odds, still a casserole. The war effort in the 1940s had every American making sacrifices, including scarfing down canned meat. Yup, Uncle Sam was slinging Spam. Pork, water, salt, starch, sugar, and sodium nitrate ground up and stuffed into a can. Delish! Spam became the unofficial food of the World War II era, when distributor Hormel sent 100 million pounds of Spam overseas to feed American and Allied soldiers. Though Spam soared in popularity due to the fact that it was convenient, cheap, and just barely meat, not everyone was a fan. Executive J. Hormel actually collected hate mail from American GIs who were sick of choking down their daily ration of Spam. Turn the TV on, it's dinner time. As soon as television became widespread, people began to plop their keisters down in front of the tube every evening for hours on end. Eventually, they had to eat, and thus, the TV dinner was born. According to one popular version of the story, the origin of the Swanson TV dinner was the result of a major turkey miscalculation around Thanksgiving 1953. The poultry company over-ordered for the holiday and was left with over 260 tons of extra frozen turkey, so they packaged it up into aluminum trays and launched the TV dinner. Boob tube enthusiasts all around the country embraced the futuristic convenience of the frozen meals, and within a year, Swanson had sold over 10 million turkey TV dinners. Ah, the 1960s. The golden age of frighteningly jiggly and unnaturally transparent bundt cake. Jello, we're talking Jello. In the 60s, Jello was not just marketed as a sugary dessert made from the collagen of animal bones, but as a staple of the dinner table. The 1964 book, The Joy of Cooking, featured an entire section dedicated to making Jello dishes for every occasion. For dinner, expect Jello salad made with tuna, chicken, or even pasta. The savory slime boasted flavors like celery, mixed vegetable, and Italian salad, because nothing screams traditional Italian delicacy quite like Jello. When we think 70s, we think shag carpets, swinging parties, and of course, fondue. While dipping things in melty cheese dates back to the dawn of man, fondue really flowed onto the scene after being featured in the Swiss Pavilion at the 1964 World's Fair, as part of a marketing scheme to increase demand for Swiss cheese exports. It soon became a popular way of socializing with friends, while also eating yummy cheese and getting minor burns from the hot melting pot. Of course, as the fad grew in the States, Americans had to make it even more sugary sweet when a Swiss-American restaurateur introduced chocolate fondue in the late 60s. By the 70s, fondue became associated with the sexual revolution because of its popularity among young adults and the reputation of fondue parties being warm and intimate affairs. The opposite of guzzling hot cheese is the next food fad on our list, the Atkins diet. Atkins pushes the idea of a low-carbohydrate diet to encourage the body to metabolize stored fat instead of glucose for energy. In layman's terms, no carbs. One key loophole, you were permitted to eat large portions of food to avoid hunger, as long as you stayed the hell away from bread. Atkins rose in popularity because it seemed to be the anti-diet diet, going against the status quo of the time. Today, people are still subscribing to the Atkins diet, or similar trends derived from it, such as keto. One of the hottest trends of the 80s was Cabbage Patch dolls, and when the dolls were ground into a fine paste, you get the next food fad on our list. Whoops, sorry, no. We're seeing here that it's actually made from vegetables. It's the Cabbage Soup diet! Passed around in faxes and photocopies like a chain letter, this 7-day diet was all cabbage soup all the time, with a few fruits and vegetables thrown in for crunch. Some say this diet is so effective, it can help you drop 17 pounds in just 1 week. And the best, and possibly the worst part, is that you get unlimited cabbage soup! Still not convinced? Well, lucky for you. Nutritionists say that this much cabbage is definitely not good for long-term dietary needs, and you should probably find a better diet. Sorry! Sexy vampires were everywhere in the 90s, which makes it no surprise that blood was on the minds of those hoping to get a Brad Pitt-level bod. Introduced in 1996 by naturopathic physician Peter D'Adamo, the blood-type diet was all the rage, but it had more to do with matching your food intake to your blood type. The styles were the cultivator, the nomad, the enigma, and the hunter, which each matched to a different blood type. For example, a person with type A blood, or cultivator, should eat a vegetarian diet, while type O, or hunter, should eat high-protein foods like meat, poultry, and fish. No scientific evidence was ever given for why each blood type was given its nickname or why those nicknames dictated what you ate. As with many fads that were mostly nonsense, people in the 90s were really into it, and it was a bad idea. Acai? People from outside South America may not know exactly how to pronounce it, but we do know that it was part of the biggest diet trend of the early aughts, superfoods. The term superfood wasn't fresh in the new millennium. The first use of the term may be a 1949 Canadian muffin recipe, although the concept was promoted in the 1910s to drive up sales of bananas. By the 2000s, it came to mean any food containing an extra health-boosting ingredient, which rose to popularity by 2007. Today, superfoods are a multi-billion-dollar industry and includes superior nom-noms like blueberries, seaweed, turmeric, chia, and flaxseed. Basically, if you'd put it in a smoothie, it's probably a superfood. Just like the meteoric rise of Justin Bieber in 2010, one moment they were only in guacamole and the next they were everywhere. Avocados, the Justin Bieber of foods. Believe it or not, avocados are actually a berry that is high in fiber, healthy fats, and potassium. Avos have been around since 10,000 BC, where the indigenous peoples of Central America called the fruit avocado, which translates to testicle. We have no idea why. It's truly a mystery. Today, avocados top every meal from breakfast, lunch, and dinner, even dessert. Yes, avocado ice cream has long been popular in South and Southeast Asia. Avos are so popular in the US that the average person in 2018 consumed over 3 times as many avocados as in 2001. It's safe to say avocados have maintained a better reputation throughout the last decade than the Biebs. The next fad on our list is not a food, yet lack thereof. Intermittent fasting is a term given to fasting diets where the common goal is to limit eating to a time-restrictive window. There's the 5-2 diet, where you eat normally for 5 days and then eliminate solid foods for 2 days. There's the 18-16, where you fast for 18 hours of the day straight and then are allowed to eat within a 6-hour window, so on and so on. Intermittent fasting is all about getting the body's insulin levels as low as they can go, safely. The idea is if your insulin levels drop far enough for long enough, it will burn fat. With celebs like Oprah and Jennifer Aniston mentioning it in the press, it's easy to see why people everywhere are getting in the fast lane. It's beyond impossible to be alive in 2020 and not know about the meat alternative craze. Plant-based meat alternatives have been around for decades, but recent advances in the industry have made them more realistic in flavor and texture, enticing meat eaters to dabble in the meatless fields where once only vegetarians and vegans would roam. It's become so popular that even fast food joints like Burger King, Carl's Jr., and White Castle have added meat alternative burgers to their menus. Aside from the meatless meat substitute, there's been a growing trend of eating less meat overall, popularized by hashtags such as Meatless Monday. Sales of alternatives like jackfruit, tofu, tempeh, and legumes have increased to meet demand. A recent report claimed that by 2040, 60% of meat consumed will either be plant-based or lab-grown. Move over, cows! We've got something better on the grill. The younger brother of the Atkins diet, don't count keto out in 2020. Social media has helped this carb-limiting diet gain popularity in recent years. The goal of keto is to achieve ketosis, which requires a diet that is 70 to 90% fat, 6 to 20% protein, and 5% carbohydrates. Nutritionists are not fans of keto, and many of them warn that the diet is not sustainable and can cause possible long-term health risks. Despite being shunned by experts, keto is still popular among the average Jane looking to drop a dress size fast. According to Google, recently there have been more searches for the keto diet than other trendy diets such as paleo, Whole30, or intermittent fasting. Never mind the potential health risks, keto is catapulting to the top. Well, now we're full of avocados and acai. We have a bit of a stomachache and we need to go double-check our blood type to make sure we're not supposed to be vegetarian. What we're saying is, this list was a lot to digest, but we loved sharing every last bite. Stick a fork in us. We're done.